Welcome to the My Innovation Coach training webinar, Business Model Innovation. And I want to start with a question, and that's, if you think about your business, what's your primary focus? If you think about what your focus is every morning when you come into the office, I would contend that in general, in my experience, we tend to focus primarily on our products, existing products, issues with production on our existing products, new product development is illustrated here, and the processes associated with both manufacturing as well as new product development. That's really what we tend to focus on day in and day out. But I would challenge you that if you really understand why your customers buy your product, you might be surprised that it may not be for reasons that you envision. We tend to focus so much internally on our products, and I think in my experience we tend to forget exactly why customers, or understand exactly why customers may purchase our product. And that really transitions well into the topic today, and that's the business model. And the definition of a business model is it really describes the entire rationale for how your organization creates, delivers, and captures value. And it's not all about the product. It encompasses everything associated with innovation, information coming into your organization, the various organizations, engineering and so forth, turning that information into knowledge, that value-added information going into the operations to create the products and services that you rely on, and then all the systems and processes in order to deliver that value to the customers. That includes, for instance, the distribution chain, the marketing, sales operation. Of course, the customers then vote with their dollars, so to speak, generate the revenue that pays for all the operations, allows you to reinvest in new product development and innovation, and then hopefully generates a net income. So that's really, all of these processes associated with creating that net income is the essence of the business model. And so the point that I want to make here is that the business model, if you think about it, really can be an innovation opportunity. So first, the business model is the key to creating that value and achieving your long-term financial goals. And the question is, do you completely understand your business model and your competitors' business models? And then finally, are there opportunities to innovate around the business model and create more sustainable competitive advantage? And the point here is that innovation is more than just product innovation. Thinking through your business model, understanding it, looking for opportunities is key to creating customer value and meeting your long-term financial goals. And the bottom line is, if you look around and start thinking about what's happening all around you, much of the innovation that we talk about today is really business model innovation. It has nothing to do with product innovation per se. And much of this has really been influenced in the last 20 years by the internet that have allowed new business models to come about because of the internet, and how it makes many business models much more practical today. The other point I want to make is that really a unique business model can provide a source of secure or long-term competitive advantage. The bottom line is, today products and services can be more easily copied than any time before, in large part because of the internet and the fact that knowledge moves around the economy so quickly today, and we all sense that in our businesses, that we're running faster to keep up with competition. So products and services can be copied, but unique business models, especially that rely on unique cultures and human resources and so forth, are much more difficult to copy. And so spending time on business model innovation is really just as important, maybe more important, than thinking about product innovation. So as part of this discussion, I had sent a short business case or case study on a company called Hilti. And if you've had a chance to read that case study, Hilti looked at their business model. Traditionally, they relied on selling high-end power tools to contractors and so forth. So these are high cost, higher value, higher durability type products that you would, compared to what you might typically buy in your local hardware store or retail box store, home improvement store. But they really looked at why customers purchased those products, and it really wasn't to buy a drill per se. The contractors were simply buying a tool in order to allow them to complete a project on time, under budget or on budget, and as quickly as possible. So really, they were looking for a job to be done with that tool in order to help them complete their task and get paid. So when Hilti really understood why customers bought their product, they were able to re-envision a business model where rather than selling a tool to a contractor, they sold a service to a contractor that would basically, contractor would basically sell them or contract with them in order to manage the inventory of their tools. So now they no longer really manage that. They basically were paying for a service in order for Hilti to make sure that they always had the tools that they needed when they needed them in order to complete their contract. So it was just a different way to look at what the customer valued and how to change their business model in order to capture that value more effectively. So it's a great study of especially for product-related companies to rethink your business model. And again, so often I think we get caught up in our products and forget why customers buy our products. And by re-envisioning and thinking about what they really value, then maybe you have an opportunity to generate additional revenue rather than selling an asset, selling a service. And so a lot of product-related type companies traditionally that have produced manufactured products can fall into this trap of thinking too much about their product and not enough about why customers actually buy their product. So if you accept my case that business model innovation is very important, then this tool that I'm going to introduce you to, the Business Model Canvas, is an effective way to look at your business model as well as competitors' business models and start having a way to envision how you might change that business model. Here is the source for you. It's a wonderful resource. I would encourage you to obtain this book and another publication that I'll refer to here in a minute. And it's a tool that I use with clients, and it's a very engaging tool, as you'll see in a minute here. The Business Model Canvas basically consists of 9 building blocks that cover a variety of different aspects of how your company delivers value to your customer. And again, as part of the preparation for this webinar, I had sent out a review of these 9 building blocks that will save you a lot of time rather than having to necessarily read the book. You can use this this cheat sheet, so to speak, to help guide the discussion. The way this product is typically used, or this tool is typically used, is you can print out the business model canvas in a large format, put it up on the wall, and then use it as a team activity to go through these 9 different building blocks and understand your existing business model, and as a way to discuss how you might change your business model. I think part of the value here is doing this in a team-based context where you can get a small group of people together from various functions within the organization, leverage all that knowledge, leverage those different perspectives, and really think through the aspects of your existing business model, your competitors' business models, and envisioning new types of business models. This is not a one-off type of activity. It's a good activity to do over some period of time, because as you go through this process and engage different people within the organization, things emerge over that process. So rather than thinking of this as something that you get people together for 1 hour and you're done, that's not really the way to look at it. It's really something, an ongoing process that really is the value. A key part of the 9 building blocks is the value proposition. And this is a simple template for the value proposition. I would say that in many cases, this is a difficult thing to do the first time you've tried to do it. It really gets to the heart of why do customers actually buy your product, and does everybody in the organization understand that? This is really the essence. It's kind of the final step, so to speak, after you've understood all the different parts of the business model, the 9 building blocks. This 9th one, the value proposition, really is the outcome of that in terms of really how can you succinctly describe why customers purchase your products. So the one thing I really like about the business model canvas is that it really allows you to describe an infinite number of business models, and I think that's one of the big benefits of it, as opposed to thinking about business models in a very confined nature. Having said that, though, there are, I think, some common business models that exist out there, and the 3 that I've mentioned here are really kind of the upper level, more common type of 3 categories. One are customer relationship businesses. These are businesses like attorneys and accountants and so forth, where the business model really is built around the relationship, the one-on-one relationship with the customer. Then there are product innovation businesses. These are mostly manufacturing type companies. And then there are infrastructure businesses such as credit card processing companies or telephone networks or internet suppliers and so on and so forth. Then there are other types of business models that are really kind of subsets of those. One is what's called the long tail, and this is where a business has a large number of niche products. And to a large degree, the internet has allowed this to proliferate. So if you think of the book publishing business, Amazon Books, for instance, that business model was never really possible before the internet. Now you can have a large number of very low volume niche products and still make money. So that's an aspect really that's been supported by the internet. Then there are what are called multi-sided platforms. This is where your business serves 2 interdependent groups of customers. For instance, credit card processing businesses is an example of this. Then free is a business model. This is where one substantial customer benefits at no charge. And there are lots of different aspects of this free offer based on a multi-sided platform. For instance, Google, where you don't pay for the ability to search the internet, but just think about the value that provides to you. In fact, I saw an article recently where if all of the value that's been created in these types of free offers was accommodated within the GDP numbers, that the GDP would be a lot higher. So if you think about it, over the last several years, the amount of value that you get, quote unquote, for free through the internet particularly, it's pretty astounding actually, the things that we're used to now today that we never had access to, both from finding information to entertainment opportunities. This is real value, and it's really not, you don't pay for it per se. Somebody else essentially pays for it in the case of Google through the advertising and so forth. So very interesting twist on these business models. free basic service with a premium upgrade. You know, you have a basic service and then you pay for an upgrade once you get hooked, so to speak, on the free service. Free trial periods, the razor and blade, where you know you have a product and by design there's a consumable that really provides the revenue and the margins, whereas the base product is really sold at cost potentially. Of course, if you're managing multiple business models, that can be challenging. You know, while you're innovating on one, you've got to maintain an existing business model. There is this concept of the ambidextrous organization. An organization has to be able to manage multiple business models, and that's more important today than it ever has been. Especially how fast things move. You have to be able to move quickly, and that might mean managing multiple business models simultaneously. And thinking through how much conflict there is between the two different business models. You know, and particularly in terms of what's the risk of the new model damaging the existing business. I mean, there is some aspect of, you know, if you don't obsolete your product or your services or your business model, somebody else will. But you have to carefully manage that if you're innovating, implementing a new business model that's going to take the place of an existing one. And that's really where management leadership is absolutely crucial to doing this. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the business model canvas. As I mentioned, these are the two publications. This is the main tool that goes through the 9 different building blocks of the business model. This other tool, the value proposition design, looks specifically at the value proposition and what are called customer segments. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's look at this one first. As I mentioned, the business model canvas consists of 9 building blocks. And the cheat sheet that I provided you will go through each one of these. I'll just make some comments about each one of them. Customer segments, of course, is extremely important. This is who your customers are, understanding who they are and what their needs are. There are lots of different examples of customer segments. You might be serving a mass market. You might be looking at more of a niche market. You might have a segmented market where you're looking at different products and different needs for different segments. You might be looking at a multi-sided platform. So there are lots of different types of customer segments. Different customer groups might require different needs. So that basically defines a customer group. If they have different needs and it's justified a distinct offer, then they are a specific customer group. We'll come back to customer segments here in a minute when we talk about the other tool that I mentioned. The second building block are customer relationships. These are specifically about what the customer, you know, what kind of relationships you have. You might have a business where, you know, there's personal assistance, where you have a one-on-one relationship with the customer. You might have dedicated personnel to be assigned to individual clients, maybe account managers or whatever. Maybe it's a self-service type of relationship or automated in some way. Maybe it's a co-creation where your customer is engaged in the co-creation of a product. You know, a good example of that is how Lego changed their business model to where they brought in the ability of customers to co-create the products. So lots of different twists on how to approach customer relationships. The third building block is channels. This really has to do with your channels associated with how you're promoting your product, how you acquire customers, how you support customers, how you sell product, how you provide post-purchase support. So there might be multiple different types of channels based on the business model. The channel might be owned. You might own your, you might employ salespeople, or you might use representatives. So you might have a direct in-house, or you might go through retail operations. You might have partner channels. So lots of different types of channels that you have to think about in terms of how you promote your product, how you raise awareness about your company, how the customers are going to evaluate your value proposition, and how you're delivering that to the end customer, and how you provide that post-customer support. So lots of different aspects associated with channels. The revenue stream really is about how you're capturing that value financially. Are you generating revenue through an asset sale, or are you charging licensing fees, or brokerage fees, or is it advertising? So lots of different ways to capture revenue. Really, there are two types of revenue streams. There's transactions, or they're recurring revenues. So lots of different aspects associated with how you generate revenue. And then there's the value proposition. So really, customer segments and these relationships and so forth all kind of morphs into now the value proposition, which is specifically how you're going to satisfy those customer needs with the products and services that you offer. So it can be a bundle of customer or products and services that accomplish what you need to do in terms of satisfying the customer segments. Everything really on the right-hand side of this diagram really is all about generating revenue. And now when we get over to the left side, it's really all about the cost structure within the business. So this is really the revenue generating portion of your business model, and this is really the cost structure in order to deliver those products and services to your customer. So on the left side is, for instance, starting with over here with key activities. So based on the value proposition and the bundles of services and the issues with customer relationships and the channels and so forth, there will be a number of key activities that are important for delivering that value proposition. So what are those activities? And that may be very important because that will lead then to what are the key resources. So those key resources may be human resources as it relates to those key activities, or it might be outside relationships in the case of key partners. So these are all issues associated with the building blocks on how you're going to deliver that value proposition. And then finally, that all kind of morphs down to the cost structure. So once you understand all of these issues in terms of the customer relationships that are required, the channels, the key activities, key resources, key partners, all of this now will come down to help you create the cost structure. So it's really at this point now that you can start financially modeling. So part of that cost structure will allow you to model the financial business case for this specific business model. So as I mentioned, one of the things that I really like about the business model canvas is that it provides you the ability to envision really infinite number of business models, because within each one of these 9 segments, you have a lot of opportunity to innovate and think about how you might do it differently than what's being done today, a new twist on what's being done today, a way to gain competitive advantage and do something unique and create a unique business model that's very difficult to copy. Many of these things are going to be tied up in the culture within the organization. It's going to be tied up in know-how associated with not only generating your products and services, the know-how associated with that, but these key activities and the key resources and the partners and how you develop the channels. All of these things are extremely important and are above and beyond just the focus on the product. And that's really the point, I think, of this tool, is it gives you the ability to think about all these different aspects of how value gets delivered to the customer and affords you really infinite ways of envisioning your new business models. The other tool focuses on 2 specific aspects of the business model canvas. So the value proposition canvas focuses on these customer segments and the value proposition. So it's really the interaction between these two that are very important. The rest of the 9 building blocks really, are all kind of related in some manner to these two. But these are really are key, and so the value proposition canvas kind of hones in on these two key aspects of the value proposition. And so in customer segments, it breaks down. This breaks it down into 3 kind of aspects. Thinking through the customer jobs. In other words, again, it gets away from the focus on your product per se and makes you focus on what job your customer is trying to do with your products. So it's just a different focus. So in the case of Hilti, rather than focusing on the product that they made, they turned it around and really looked at from this aspect of the customer. What job were they trying to accomplish when they bought their tools? Was it just to buy a drill? No, it's not about buying a particular power tool. It was really their job to be done, so to speak, was to complete their projects on time, on budget, as quickly as possible. They didn't really, their core competency, a contractor's core competency is not maintaining a repair depot for all of their tools. Their core competency is project management. So when Hilti realized that that's their job to be done, then it opened up other possibilities. So that's a key aspect today of understanding how to segment your customers. You can segment them a lot of different ways, but customer jobs is certainly an important aspect. So that's the focus here. And as you think about that, the other aspect of thinking about that particular customer segment, and by the way, you can do this for each key customer segment, and you might have multiple customer segments, and they might have different jobs. If you're selling through distributors, that's a specific customer segment, and what they're trying to accomplish might actually be a little different than what your end user is trying to accomplish. So this is an exercise that you can go through with each of the primary customer segments within your market. But anyway, another way to look at it is how can you help your customer gain? What are their gains? What can you help them gain? Maybe it's helping promote their career, or do their job more effectively, or save them money. So how can you help them gain? And what are their pains? And that will lead to how can you relieve their pains? In the case of Hilti, it's again, maybe a pain point is maintaining all their tools. Well, how can you relieve that pain? Well, maybe you can come up with a service and manage that tool for them so that they don't have to worry about it. So all of this gets back to the heart of thinking through your customers. And I'll digress for just a second here, and let's go back to this. And one way you can do that is through what we call ethnography. This is really the heart of ethnography, and that is putting your place in your customer's shoes. And you can do this with each one of your customer segments. Again, you can come up with an avatar for that particular customer. It's great if you have a name and maybe a face to put to this particular customer segment, and try to put yourself in their shoes and think about what they see, what's their environment, who are their friends, how do they view the market, what do they think and feel, what really counts to them, what are their major preoccupations, what do they worry about, what do they aspire to, what do they hear, what do their friends say, what does their boss say to them, who are their influencers and what do they say to them, what do they say and do, what's their attitude in public, maybe their appearance and how they behave towards others. So this is really about understanding what makes your customer tick, trying to put yourself in their place. What are their pains? What do they fear? What are their frustrations? What obstacles do they have? And what do they gain? What are their wants and needs? How do they measure success? What are their obstacles? So this is really the heart of thinking about your customers, and it goes to the heart of this this value proposition canvas and thinking through the things that we just talked about here. So now once you've really understanding your customers, then you can start thinking about the actual products and services. And this will really influence how you define your new products. So it's really, almost part and parcel to the first step in defining new products, obviously, is understanding what your customer needs are, and that's going to influence the suite of products and services that will be part of your value proposition. And then, of course, that has to be related to how you can create gains for your customers and how you can relieve pain. So all this ties together really, and is a really nice template, to actually help you define new products and services. So really, out of this whole exercise is a much more effective way to get to the point where now you can really start honing in on product definition. And in fact, that will be one of the future webinars. Will be talking about product definition, and this whole exercise will play a key part in that. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So we talked about the ethnography, and really when it gets to thinking about customer segments and the value proposition, and it really does relate to this concept of industry and market segmentation, thinking about how you segment your industry, and that really will inform you on what the key customer segments are, and then of course thinking through the product varieties and thinking through the product or the value proposition. So this is all related to industry and market segmentation. Okay, so in summary, your business model really is just as important, if not more important, than your product. So you really need to spend as much time thinking about your business model as you do about your product. And the second point here is that products today can be copied very easily, but unique business models can provide really substantial competitive advantage because they're not as easy to copy as your products and your services. The business model and the value proposition canvas are really excellent tools that will help you understand in a very engaging way that you can, a team building exercise, something that you can engage throughout your organization. It helps you understand your current business model, helps you understand your competitor's model, and then start to envision new opportunities. And I think, as I mentioned, I think it's important that you look at this as a process. It's not something that you sit down in one day. It could be a good activity for an off-site meeting that gets people away from the office and focus on this type of activity. So it's a really nice tool, and hopefully you share my my passion for this type of tool to help you think through your business model and new opportunities for your business model. And it can be really a fun and engaging way to leverage the knowledge within the organization. Thanks for attending this My Innovation Coach training webinar.